morning, everybody. Today I'm going to be doing a video and explaining to you guys like what I do, what my morning routine looks like. Many of you have written me and asked me like, what do you do in the morning when you wake up, and like, how do you keep yourself motivated, and what kind of habits do you have going on in the morning? I thought, why not just do a video in my pajamas, drinking my coffee, and just keep it real. And so this is one of my home offices. I also have a studio that I record most of my YouTube videos in, and that's changed over the years because of, just for different reasons, in terms of lighting and whatever. But most of my mornings start off in this space. It's a very small space. And the first thing that I do when I wake up in the morning is I let Alice outside on my deck, and she does her business. Alice is my Weimaraner. And I go outside on my deck between 3 and 3:30 in the morning. I know it sounds crazy, but once people start getting up in my house, once my husband gets up and my daughter gets up, it's just different. You know, um, my energy is taken off into a different direction. So I wake up in the morning and I do some yoga stretches in the morning. I just throw my hands up in the air, and I'm just so happy to be alive. And I talk to the stars, and I talk to the birds, and I listen to the wind, and I just connect. And I probably stretch, and sometimes I just pray. And to me, prayer isn't asking from lack. Prayer is gratitude and just being so thankful for life. I believe that I am an extension of, I am life. You are life, right? A bird is life. Grass is life. My dog is life. Flowers are life. And so I give thanks and praise and just gratitude that I have life flowing through my veins. And at any point in time, I can use my consciousness to interrupt a thought and create a new thought and create a new potential for myself and even for others. And that's worth getting up in the morning for. So the first thing that I do is I get up very, very early between the hours of 3 and 3:30, just my preference. And I spend some time alone on my deck in the complete darkness, looking up at the stars. Like I said, stretching, praying prayers of just gratitude and just being in awe of the planet and the way things work. And I do that for probably about 10 minutes. And then I come in the house and I feed my dog, and then I come into my office and I'll read, and I'll journal. And I usually read and journal for about 15 to 20 minutes. Some days I journal longer than that. If I have something that is emotional and it's on my heart and I need time to work it out, I'll spend more time journaling about that thing. There are times where I do a meditation. I'll do a guided meditation, or what I'm working on now is being able to sit in my office without the lights on and just complete mindfulness, which is weird because mindful is the opposite of what mindfulness is. Mindfulness is an empty mind. And I get the whole color thing happening in my brow, and it's just beautiful. And there are some times I just don't want to come out of the meditation. What I'm also working on, the older I get, is forgiveness, forgiving myself and asking for forgiveness of those that I have wounded in the past unknowingly through codependency and through being below the veil of consciousness. So gratitude and working on forgiveness, forgiving others and forgiving myself, and asking for forgiveness of others, in my own mind, in the etheric realm, drawing people into my consciousness and, imagining them in front of me and asking them for forgiveness, and also letting them know that I forgive them. I'm at a point in my life where I just want to release any energy that's preventing me and my soul's evolution. And that's really become a huge, huge part of my recovery. And, there was a point where, I would sit in this office and I would be angry, and I think that was part of my recovery too, because if you don't allow yourself to be angry, it's very difficult for you to find your boundary, like your personal boundary line. And so anger, I think, is a very, very important part of the healing process. There are no bad emotions. There are only unhealthy choices or reactions to emotions. And so learning to understand and accept I have a right to feel what I feel, and identifying boundaries from that space has definitely been crucial on my recovery journey. I'm at a point now where I want to be free, and I want peace to be a part of my everyday. And so I realized that letting go of negative energies is crucial for me. And so I know when I wake up in the morning that I want to be grateful. I want to be full of gratitude and humility. I want to be in awe of life and how it works, and understanding the brain and blending that into spiritual concepts has just healed my life. You know, understanding and concepts that are very difficult to understand, and breaking them down to the point where my higher self is like, oh, okay, I got this. The brain can be understood, but it's sort of like you have to get out of the box of the brain to understand what's happening in the brain. And that's what consciousness is. So your brain isn't your mind, right? And so your brain is the organ, and your mind is something completely different. And you have the ability to understand how your brain works, and you have the ability to understand your mind. And so I would say that I wake up between 3 and 3:30, and I am working on personal development stuff for at least an hour and a half every morning to 2 hours. And I never even realized that I spent that much time working on myself, every day, but I do. And then from there, what I do is I work on addressing my business stuff, emails. I have online coaching programs that I have to manage. And so I manage those online. And, there's a lot to manage in terms of the business end. And so I work on that for a few hours, and I send my husband off to work. My husband is vegan and gluten free. And so that takes some time every morning. And so he works out of the home. I take care of that for him, and I enjoy doing it. And my daughter goes off to work, and then I have the house pretty much to myself. And so if I have a personal coaching client that I coach, I'll tackle that, and usually by 9 a.m. I'm showered and ready for the business part of my day. And it's all business from 9 until about 12. Couple of days a week I go for a run, and I probably run for about a mile and a mile and a half, a couple of times a week. And I also do what I can to walk and connect with nature in the afternoons. And that's pretty much, my morning routine and how I like to flow. After 12 o'clock, I do, well, on most days, I'm still working. I'm still addressing Facebook comments, Instagram comments, and I get a ton of emails. I get hundreds of emails in a day, and I do my best. We can't answer all of them, and I do have people who help me process the emails, but I do my best. My online coaching programs take up a lot of my time, but I have to tell you that I am forever tethered to me. I am forever tethered to who I am and what I am. And, what keeps me straight is a few key ideas. I want peace in my life. I don't want any BS in my life. I have no more room for drama. I know that I'm a co-creator. I know that my thoughts are stringing together atoms. And if I string enough thoughts together, I'm going to string a lot of atoms together. And so I'm forever humbled by this idea that my brain is oscillating in a particular frequency, and my heart is oscillating in a particular frequency. And all about us, we are bathing in frequencies. And through the universal laws of like attracting like, whether we like it or not, I'm stringing together my reality. And I'm somebody who has been completely humbled by that reality. And I bow my head in humility towards it. And that took a long time, because for so long I was codependent, below the veil of consciousness, and reacting to everything that was happening outside of me. And I thought people should change. I thought like my ex should change, my mother should change, and my father should change. Not saying they shouldn't have changed, because they should have, for themselves. But I held my happiness away from happiness. I held myself apart from happiness, thinking that my happiness was out here somewhere. And, the more I learned about quantum mechanics and the law of attraction, and how the brain works, and how synapses in the brain works, and, how memory works, and how, old childhood programming affects the way we think today, and it affects our output today. And once I understood that a memory once triggered, is going to duplicate the same experience in my brain as the first traumatic event. So literally, as this happens, synapses are getting stronger, the bonds, those old experiences are getting stronger. And I wanted to know why I was always triggered. That's why I was always triggered. And I just hadn't gained enough awareness and enough consciousness. I hadn't been mindful enough, and that's why healing and recovery and consciousness versus unconsciousness and the dualistic nature of reality and the law of attraction, it all fits. And once you dovetail all this information, healing can happen in my opinion, at rapid speed. Trying to heal and not understand how the brain processes trauma and how the brain processes, information, and how childhood experiences are categorized according to the pain they create, and the more powerless you felt as a child is how your brain is cataloging this event. And the more painful the event, the more your brain's going to remember it. And so that becomes my hijacked point of focus. So my morning routine is very, very centered upon that understanding and my desire to want to heal that understanding as much as I can, not only for me, but for my children. I want to be a positive influence because I know this is real. Like, I meet people like, oh, I don't believe in the law of attraction. I'm like, do you realize that the earth is suspended in this type of goo called gravity without any strings? This is the law of attraction, right? That the sun, it's all magnetism and repulsion. Like, the law of attraction is an action, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. I'm just very humbled by it. So my everyday morning routine is really based on those principles: wanting peace, being humble, being grateful, no matter what. Gratitude changed my life. When you focus on what you don't want, you get more of what you don't want. Learning to be non-resistant to what's showing up so that I can actually allow the universe to have my back, so that I can stay in the stream of abundance, and knowing that I had some conscious and creative control over that. Understanding that mindfulness and meditation were tools that I could use to help me align with the universe, so that the universe and I could co-create a reality that I wanted, was a very humbling experience. I think trauma survivors, it just is what it is. We're not playing the victim. We're just being real. Like, trauma survivors have to work harder at this stuff. That it's so easy to say, oh, just become mindful, and oh, just think positive thoughts, and oh, it's a law of attraction, but for a trauma survivor, your brain is wired for survival. It's not wired for gratitude. It's not wired for creating your own reality deliberately. It's not wired for that, which means you have to work harder to get to a point where you can be non-resistant, so the universe can have your back. And I respect that. And that's why I've dedicated my life, and it's my mission to help those who've struggled with abuse in their past of any kind to awaken to their true potential. And there's this, in every synapse of the brain, there's a field of potential. And what's spilling into a trauma survivor's field of potential is more of the same, right? Because that's the way the brain works. And that's not our fault. And we can change the information and the chemistry and the data that's being spilled into a synapse if we can become non-resistant, if we can learn to let go of what we can't control, if we can make decisions, then we can change. We can change the information that's flowing into that synapse. We can shine love and light onto a memory and onto the inner child's experience, and we can liberate ourselves. So that is really, I know that I have a trauma brain, and I know that I had, CPTSD, and I don't pretend that I don't. And I know that I have trauma triggers, and I don't pretend that I don't. And I know that there are people out there whose intention it is to hurt other people, and I don't pretend that they don't exist. I know that I'm susceptible to painful memories. I know that. And so every day I work at least for an hour and a half to 2 hours at setting my emotional tone, at being grateful, at journaling about, and my journaling is all about, it's two things. It's about what I want, or it's about something that I'm struggling with. And I write until my mind has made sense out of what I'm concerned about. And I know that ultimately I have to get the feelings out so the energy that's tied to them is discharged. And I know that my goal is, Lisa, what can you control versus what can't you control? And can you move to a place of non-resistance of whatever this thing is? Somebody died, somebody said something terrible, someone tried to hurt your friend, someone tried to hurt you. There's a loss of a job for somebody, somebody's ill, whatever. Like, my goal is non-resistance. And so I will journal until I experience non-resistance, because I want to stay in the stream of abundance, and I don't want to repeat the negative synapses in my brain that continue to bond and bond and bond and bond and bond in a negative way. And so I hope that this video has inspired you. This is me at 3:30 in the morning, getting ready to set my emotional tone, to meditate, and to become more and more in alignment with my true potential as a creator, in spite of what has happened to me in the past. So thank you for being a YouTube subscriber. Thank you for supporting this channel. Please know that every month I will be giving away, whether it's a book or a membership, a year-long membership to my membership site. It's just my way of saying thank you to those of you who subscribe. And an independent company will be picking the YouTube subscribers, so that's out of my hands. And every month we'll be doing that, and you will be notified that way through the company. And so thank you so much for being here, and thank you for being committed to love and light, and being somebody who, in spite of what's happened to you in the past, you're saying, yes, this happened, but what can I do about it, right? Because expecting other people to change is just not going to happen. When you change on the inside, I know it sounds hokey pokey, and I used to get pissed off when I heard people like Wayne Dyer and other people say this, and Jack Canfield, when you change on the inside, the outside changes. I used to get so pissed off, but now I get it. Now I get it. And so I hope that this has helped you, and thank you so much for being here. Namaste. Bye for now. Until next time.